Man test. Calling all men. If you're a true man, then name your favorite Pokemon now. If you could do it, then you've passed the man test. What about man tests? So, I firmly believe that this is, okay, I don't want to ever, say, only this gender can play this game. Like that, come on. That is not Evan 30 approved. But what I'm saying is that, people stereotypically say that men like cool guns and explosions and, like dinosaurs and things in space. And I gotta be honest, if there's any Pokemon game that just feels like this shit is just manly, I would have to give it to a Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So these came out in 2014, and they are essentially remakes of Ruby and Sapphire from the Game Boy Advance. And as fun as those games are, I genuinely believe these games are like so much better. And that's kind of crazy because there's a handful of Pokemon fans that will say, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald are actually better than these games because they don't have the Battle Frontier. Okay, I do think it kind of sucks they took out the Battle Frontier. Oh yeah, anyways, what I was going to say is that one of the big things that people complain about with this game is that they took out the Battle Frontier, which was post-game content only in Emerald. And while that might kind of suck that that's gone, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to look at it like this. I do think that when a Pokemon game is to be a remake of, the original release of the game, like for example, if you're going to remake Diamond and Pearl, I do think if there's cool stuff they put in Platinum, that you should toss that into the remake as well, if that makes sense. So like, on one hand, you can argue, well, these are remakes of Ruby and Sapphire, not Emerald, so that's why it's not there. But, you could maybe say, that kind of sucks that that's not there. Here's my argument, though. The sheer amount of shit that they add to this game, transcends any enjoyment that I think the Battle Frontier could, ever give me. So, I kind of just don't care. I hate to be this guy, but if I really want to play the Battle Frontier, I could just play Emerald, and that's my thing. So yeah, no. It's that original Ruby and Sapphire game from, Generation 3, but on the 3DS with the same engine that they used for X and Y. So it is the, it's the Gen 6 engine. All the Pokemon are in 3D. Any new evolutions that were made to old Pokemon up to the point of Gen 6 are also in this game. So, you could use Magnezone or friggin' Rhyperior. By the way, I used both of them on my team. In this one, whereas in base Ruby and Sapphire, at most you would get a Magneton or a Rhyhorn. And I think that's really cool that they did that because BDSP, which were remakes made during, the 8th generation, there's nothing past Gen 4 in that game. And I know what you're thinking. Past Gen 4, they didn't really make a whole lot of, new evolutions and whatnot. But they could have, threw Sylveon in there. I mean, Eevee's in the game. I think it would have been a really nice little, I think it would have been a nice touch if you could get friggin' Eevee. But they just completely, it's just not there. And, BDSP does do right. The remastered soundtrack is very cool. I was actually talking about that with my friend yesterday. I'm getting so off track. Shit. Oh. This game is so much more than a remake. Not only do you have it's not just the old game, but it's in 3D now. They add more character development and they add more like layers to pre-existing characters. Like, for example, I do think that the rival is a little bit more of a interesting face this time. Like, you know how like you pick your character and then the other character you didn't pick ends up being your rival in this one. So for my playthrough, May was my rival, and honestly, they give May a lot more dialogue, and she's just a little bit more. Now is she freaking, a 5-star written S tier character? But they did a better job writing her, so I can appreciate that. And like for example, the character Wally is just a little bit more interesting now as well. His team is super awesome, and I'm not trying to spoil too much, but the final time you fight Wally, his team is like really cool looking, and there's just amazing new battle theme they made for him. Yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say. They add so much flair to this pre-existing world that wasn't there before. They redesigned a bunch of the characters they redesigned the two like leaders of Team Magma and Team Aqua, and they created like they created new characters that are like within each faction. And it's just really, really cool. It makes the entire journey in Hoenn that much more interesting. And like the redesigns look so much better than the originals. The region itself there's just like Hoenn was already a great region, but there's just so much more life in this region now than there was before. And another humongous thing about this game is that Mega Evolutions. So Mega Evolutions are in X and Y, and they're here. And when I tell you that it is so incredibly, especially if I was, someone who first started with Ruby and Sapphire, playing these and seeing my old favorites Mega evolve would be like the coolest shit ever. No, seriously. And no, yeah, like Kyogre and Groudon. Again, if this is spoiler territory, maybe you should just play it. But Kyogre and Groudon have a primal reversion form, which it's very similar to Megas in that it's a stone they hold and it activates some, supercharged freaking Super Saiyan mode. But the difference is that primal reversion is like, it's supposed to just be Kyogre and Groudon's true ancient form. And with the red orb or blue orb, depending on which one, when you attach it to them in battle, they're basically awakened into their true ancient form. And that is so cool. That is incredibly cool. And yeah, no, like, for example... Oh, you know what? I'm going to wait to say that. Basically, the big thing with ORAS is that there's just so much new flair to this existing game. All the battle themes just sound so much better. The remade soundtrack is absolutely incredible. This is one of the best soundtracks in any Pokemon game. Like, genuinely S tier. Incredible. And as much as I enjoyed Ruby Sapphire and Emerald, the base game, I liked this one even more. There's just so much more. There's just so much flair. And also, all of the quality of life changes made to the Pokemon engine up to Gen 6 is here. Fairy types exist. The physical special split that was done in Gen 4 is here, making a lot of Pokemon that were previously kind of just shit and unusable in Gen 3 completely meta in this game. And that's huge. You have so many more options to team build. And yeah, like on the 3DS, back in the day, there was a lot of, like, you could do wireless trading, which is so neat. And in Ruby and Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance, you had to have a freaking link cable. Well, I do know that they did make a wireless adapter for the Game Boy Advance, but what I'm saying is you whip open your DS and you can just trade shit pretty much seamlessly, and that is cool. I can't remember the name of it, but there was this mode. You could basically, on the PokeNav thing, which is like kind of this, it's kind of like the Pokegear in black and white. It's your all-purpose device that can do a bunch of things for you, like show you the map or this, and that. It can detect Pokemon. Oh, there's this feature that it can detect Pokemon rustling in the grass, and you can just hold the D-pad but not push it all the way, and your character will tiptoe versus run, and you can sneak up on Pokemon. Like, that is so cool. And I don't know, it's just really cool that that's a thing. There's a really good feature here. But no, yeah, and then also on the PokéNav, you could add a bunch of friends who also had ORAS on their 3DS, and you guys could battle and trade together, and that is just, there's just so much. This is just, it feels like such a complete, definitive Pokemon experience. And it's really cool that they did this for one of the older games, as a remake to one of the older games. So not only are they bringing in new fans because this game just looks awesome, they're bringing in old fans because they recognize this face. And there's so much post-game content. I know the Battle Frontier is beloved? I'm just gonna say beloved, maybe. How about this? I know people really love the Battle Frontier, and I don't want to shit on the Battle Frontier, because I know there's fun to be had, but I'm gonna be honest. I would take, the post-game is called the Delta episode. I would take the Delta episode over anything the Battle Frontier could possibly do any day of the week. Any hour of the day, any minute of the hour, any second of the minute, any millisecond of the second. Like, seriously. Like, I'll play this over the Battle Frontier any day. And as cool as the base game is, and as awesome as that whole experience was for me, the Delta episode is like the best part of the entire game. It's literally the best part of the game. Right before the Elite Four, a bunch of Pokemon from old... So basically, you unlock the National Dex before the Elite Four. That is incredible. So once the National Dex opens, Pokemon that aren't typically in the Hoenn Dex just start appearing everywhere. So it could be anything from Gens 1 to 6. That is awesome. As a black and white lover myself, I kept seeing a bunch of my favorites appearing on the screen, and that was really sick. So yeah, you can just use whatever the hell you want in the, you can use whatever the hell you want in the Elite Four and fighting the champion, and you've got Megas, and once you beat the game, the Delta episode starts, and I would love to rant about the Delta episode. I'm just going to say a few things because I don't want there to be too many spoilers here, but I probably spoiled a little bit. All I'm going to say is this. The Delta episode is something that literally didn't even exist in base Gen 3. This is something completely new to this title, and it is a whole post-game story about Rayquaza. And Rayquaza is such an incredible, cool Pokemon, and I feel like in base Gen 3, he got lore. He definitely got some really cool lore, especially in Emerald. And like in Emerald, when he comes up from the sky and tells Kyogre and Rayquaza, or no, wait, he's Rayquaza. When he tells Kyogre and Groudon, like, hey guys, shut the fuck up, can I sleep? That was really funny. But it's so cool. It involves, all I'm going to say is this. It involves a meteor that's about to strike Earth. And it involves summoning Rayquaza. And I don't want to say too much more. It is just so incredible. And it is one of the most like interesting stories I think has ever been told in this franchise period. And when people slander this game for not having the Battle Frontier, all I'm thinking is, dude, have you actually played this game? That's all I gotta say. And again, like, all jokes aside, if this just isn't your thing, I do get it. You know, we can always agree to disagree. But I hate to admit it, subconsciously, when I hear people bitching that this game doesn't have a Battle Frontier, I do firmly believe that you haven't actually played it. No, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So, my favorite game in the franchise is Black and White. But if you were to ask me what I consider to be the most full, just strong experiences in this entire franchise, I would give you two titles. It's either going to be Black and White 2, or it's going to be Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Like, those two titles are like completely triple S tier. Like, this is Pokemon. Like, this is what you're looking for. This is going to be the most definitive experience you can get in this franchise. And I think there are some great contenders. Like, Heart Gold, Soul Silver is really awesome as well. Amidst, beyond all of its flaws, I do still think Platinum is a pretty good game too. Black and White 1, obviously. Those are my favorite. Like, I understand that those two titles I listed are the strongest ones, but I have such a soft spot for Black and White 1, so that ends up being my favorite. That would be a contender as well. And then Fire Red and Leaf Green are also pretty fun. And I did like X and Y. X and Y was pretty awesome too. I think it's a very underrated Pokemon title. I know it's really easy, but like, it's still fun. X and Y is still fun to me. I don't care how easy it is. Beyond others, like, the Pokemon franchise, there's just so much to do with this franchise, and it's so interesting that everyone's take on the franchise tends to be so drastically different than one another, and I think that that's what makes it so whole and complete feeling, is when we can have all these different takes and all these different opinions. It sort of keeps things interesting. If everyone had the same opinion, I would be falling asleep, As much as I disagree with someone saying, oh, BDSP is a good game, it doesn't make me mad. It doesn't make me mad when someone says that, because as different as that take is to what I believe, it keeps things interesting when we have different takes. But no, yeah. Also, I think I was supposed to mention this earlier, but I'm sorry, like, getting on Rayquaza and flying around space is like the most manly shit I've ever heard in my life, or I've ever seen in my life, and it's in this game. And like, that's why Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire is like probably the most manly Pokemon game I've ever played. I think that's all I gotta say. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are so incredible, and you should literally play them, because I said so. All right. Peace out. I lied. We're not done yet. I want to show off one more part of the game, and what that is, I actually don't know. I kind of just wanted an excuse to play Alpha Sapphire some more. I'm on this random route. What's in my party right now? Ooh, okay. I have my Rayquaza. I've got Arceus, because I can. I've got Deoxys. Oh, wait. Kyogre. This Latias. And my Robo, the Magnezone, that I used for the entire playthrough. Let me see. Let me do this. Let me just show what a battle looks like in this absolutely incredible Pokemon game. Look at that. I love this. I love the Dex Nav things. It shows you, another thing I forgot to mention, this shows you the habitat list for every route you're on. And if you have everything, there'll be a ribbon that says like, congrats, you've caught everything you possibly could, or something like that. And that is so incredible. Just small attention to detail like that. My Pokemon died in the 6th gen. I think Pokemon died when it got to the Switch. That's my opinion. But, I don't want to say Pokemon's dead. It's still very alive, but I miss when they put a lot more love and care into the games. You are not ready for this. Ooh, Primal Reversion. I'd much rather play Ruby and Sapphire. No, jokes aside, that's your opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't agree with it. Surskit, you are getting obliterated into a different dimension. Yeah, that's what happens. But like, oh, that was so cool. Now let me do one more. Let me do one more thing. Let me do another thing. I'm gonna show off what Rayquaza looks like in battle. Oh, do I have my... I think I might have my repel on. No. No, check this. You are not ready for this. Unsuspecting little Swablu. Ooh. Mega Evolve. Oh, look at this fella. Look what he does. Love that animation. Oh, also, Hoenn is already a really well-designed region, so remaking this one, just, you know what I mean? That's a recipe for a great game. Delta Stream. Oh, it's so metal. Look at how cool Mega Rayquaza looks. All right, I'm done. Oh yeah, look at this, by the way. This is my 3DS, new 3DS XL from back in the day. It's in atrocious condition on the exterior, so I just covered it in Pokemon stickers. But it still works, and it's one of those rarer ones with the IPS screen. So I kind of had to keep it. All right. I think I'm actually done now. I lied. Pokemon Alpha Sapphire is like totally awesome, dude. And you should like totally play it. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go play some games. Peace.